Hello, in this exercise I'm going to be introducing you to the rectangular marquee tool, which at the end we will accomplish this project out here. This can be used as an envelope for passport photograph and those small photographs and other things like so. I'm going to create a new document. When you look at my rule over here, over here I have the width of 5 inches and then the height of 2.5 inches. So the first thing we need to do is to create a new document. So we're going to do that by going up to the file menu located at the upper left side of the screen. Click on it, come down to new, of which you can get to by pressing the Control N command. Then up comes your new dialog box in front of you. The very first option you have inside, it's the name, that is the name of your document. If you want to give it a name as you go along, you can go ahead and then give it a name. By default, when you open Photoshop, it's going to come with photo size, that is default photo size, which is set to 5 by 7 inches, resolution of 72. In my case, I'm going to highlight the name and then I would name it passport, like so. And then the default size or the preset over here has to do with the preset size, that is the inbuilt sizes that are there. But in our case, we want to use a customized size. Notice the width over here and then the height are there. So the width, I want to go with 5 inches, which I'm going to be dividing it into 2. That is, after printing, you fold the book and then you get 2.5 inch out. And then the height of 2.5, then we end up going my resolution, I'm going to take my resolution way up to 300. That is, I want 300 pixels per inch. That is, in every inch 300 pixels should be packed inside for me. And then my color mode, I'm just going to stick to RGB. Even though this work is destined for print purpose, it's not going to be an industrial printing or other things like so. I'm just going to use my normal Epson inkjet printer. So I'm going to stick to RGB, even though it is for screen work. But then this small desktop printer as drivers is capable of converting this RGB to the CMYK color, which is good for it viewing. So then I will go over here to click on OK. But then in any case you don't like what you see over here, you can press and hold the Alt key and then that will change the cancel button to reset. Notice I'm going to release my hand on the Alt key. Again, I'm going to press it, then it changes. With my Alt key down, I'm going to click on the reset button over here. The preset button, what it's going to tell you over here is that the preset, when you define a new size, it will save it out there for you as a preset, which I've gone ahead and save one preset. So in my case, I'm going to click on the preset, that is the custom, and then come all the way to 5 inch by 2.5 inch, which is what I'm going to be dealing with today. So then, having done that, I'm going to go ahead and then click on the OK button. That will create a document of 5 inches by 2.5 inches. In any case, you can't see your rule, that is your horizontal rule, and then the vertical rule over here. You can press the Control R on the keyboard, or better still, click on the view menu over here in between 3D and window, and then come down to rulers. That will show or hide the rulers for you. But in my case, I have a check mark in front of it, so it's definitely going to hide the rulers for me. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and that hides the rulers out there. Then I need to revisit that option again, that is to bring it back. But for now, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut of Control plus R key to bring it back. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a midpoint for this particular project. I can use my info command, but then I'm not going to use it. I'm going to click on the vertical rule over here and then drag it all the way until I hit the center, then it will snap. Notice it is actually snapping into place like that. So you can see, well, it draw a guide right at the midpoint for me. Well, notice over here, guides, or they are non-printed objects. So, well, in whatever you do, they are not going to be printed at all. Well then, when I press the control and then the tab key to switch to my previous work, well, I have my logo out here, which is the very first thing I'm going to be placing. So I'm going to switch back to my work in progress by pressing the control and then the tab key, and then I'll go up to the file menu here, come all the way down to place. That way I would then place an image inside of this digital photograph. Well, I would not use that, but then I will use this Training Institute logo out here. So I'm going to click on the Training Institute logo and then click on place. That way I then bring in this logo inside of the document. Well, I'm going to drag it all the way to the right side, and then I want to make it a bit smaller. So I'm going to come down to one of the corner handles, click hold on it, and then drag. But notice as I'm dragging, it's not keeping the proportion, but then I want it to go proportional. So I'm going to press and hold the shift key as I drag. So my finger is on the shift key, I'm dragging. Then that way I end up constraining the angles proportionally. So I'm going to release my mouse button and then release my shift key. Next, I'm going to click hold and then drag it all the way down here until I get something like this. Then I'll release. Having done that, you need to press the enter key on the keyboard or go to your options bar over here and then click on commit transform or the check mark out here, which has a keyboard shortcut of enter. That way you end up committing the changes out there. So that is how to bring in an image into a Photoshop like so. Next, I would have to create a layer and then apply that rectangular marquee to it and then fill it with a color. So I'm going to move down here at the lower right side of the screen and then click on create a new layer. That way I then end up creating a new layer called layer 1. Well, I'm going to double click on the name layer 1 and then I would name it orange top. Then I'll press the enter key on the keyboard to commit the changes. Next, I would come to my rectangular marquee tool, click on it. Then notice how you can use this. By default, you should have it set to this, that is add selection. So I'm going to click, hold and drag on this. That way I then end up creating a selection. But when I click on this subtract from selection and then click, hold and drag on it, notice what I have. I end up subtracting from the selection and you can see the minus icon right beneath my cursor. So well, when I click on this guy called intersect with selection, well, and click, hold and drag, it's going to intersect it for me like so. But then that is not what I want. I want to go by the new selection and then I will click, hold and drag until I get something like the height of 2.60. Then I would release. Next, I would have to fill it with a color. So I will click on the color swatch over here in the tools box, that is the foreground color, and then when you click on it, it will bring out the color picker dialog box, and then of which I'm going to dial in a color code of FF6600. That way I end up getting this bright orange out here, which is of course great. So I'm going to click on the OK button down there. Now for me to fill this selection with the color, come all the way inside of the tools box until I see paint bucket tool, of which you can get to by pressing the G key. But then in any case you can get this, click hold for some time and then the pop-up will appear. Click on the paint bucket tool inside and then click inside your selection. That way you then end up filling it orange color, which is the foreground color. Well, I'll go to my edit menu and then come down to deselect. That way I then deselect the selection ongoing out there. Then next I'll return to my rectangular marquee tool so I don't mess things up. Well, what I will be doing is, when you look at the final project, which I'm going to switch to, I have some contact numbers going on at the bottom, so I'm going to switch back and then pick my test tool, of which you can get to by pressing the T key on the keyboard, and then I'm going to click out here. But before I click, I need to drag out a row, so I'm going to click on this vertical row, hold and drag it until it snaps way here. So I'm going to click right on the line and I'm going to enter. Sorry, maybe that's not a font I want to use, but anyway, let me just use it to show you something. 1071040, and then I'll press the enter key on the keyboard. Again 00442260, and then, well, notice this, I'm going to commit the changes. Well, the font I want to use is not the same, but then let me just click hold and drag this one into place before I deal with that. Well then, this is what I got over here. I'm going to click on this character over here, but if you can't find it, well, go up to the window menu and then come all the way down to character. Then you then end up refilling the character. Well, my font out there is set to Edwardian script, which isn't what I'm going to use, so I'm going to click inside it once to take me to editing mode. Then I'm going to type Arial and then press the enter key on the keyboard. That way I then apply the Arial font. Well, my text size is too big, so I'm going to click on the drop down arrow and then make it something like 12 or even 13 or 14, like so, and then I'm going to just bring it down here. And well, if you can look at the text carefully, that is the contact number carefully, I can see it's too small. So well, that has to do with its attributes, so I'm going to change it from regular to bold, and then I end up lifting the contrast of the text. Well, I would even say this 14 I chose is too big, so I'm going to click on the A again, and then, well, this time I'll choose 12. I'll just dial in 12 and then accept the change like so, and then click on this two-headed arrow to hide that. I would drag this one all the way down there with my move tool selected. Don't forget to select that one, and then I'm going to drag out a ruler to match this one and see if it's okay, but still I can still see it's not okay. So let me just scale this one a bit. So I'm going to click once to take me into the transformation mode, and then I'm going to click again and then hold the shift key. Is important because I want the angles to be proportionally, and then once I get to the edge of the line, I'm going to press the enter key on the keyboard to commit that change. Then the next thing I'll do is this. When I switch to the final document out here, you notice that I have your beautiful passport pictures at Win ICT Center. So I'm going to switch back and then we will deal with that. So next I will still bring out a guide by dragging out a guide like so. Well, this one I'm just looking at it with my eyes like so, but I know I'm getting something perfect. Well, I'm going to click on the text tool and then click somewhere here, and then I will type. Well, don't worry about that, I'm going to just accept the change by clicking on this icon. But then notice this time it doesn't have any keyboard associated with it. Well, then I'm going to show you how to deal with that soon. That is by using a keyboard shortcut. I'm going to click on it to accept the change, come to my move tool, then click on it and then bring this one all the way down here. That is click, hold and drag on it, and then go back to your editing mode, click inside of this in between the beautiful and then the your, and then press the enter key on the keyboard, that is to come down, and then again click here, again press the enter key, and then I'm going to delete this one once, and then this time around this guy also once, then delete this. Well, I then end up creating this effect over here. But then if I want to commit the changes over here using the keyboard shortcut, I would have to press the control key and then press the enter key on the keyboard. That way I commit the changes like so. Well, I'm going to press the V key on the keyboard to return to my move tool. That is, I want the move tool to be active. So I'm going to drag this one all the way down here. And then, well, I'm going to still drag out a guide like so, a bit out, something like this. I think something like this will be okay for me. Well, I'm just matching it according to these guides over here like so, even though I'm not getting something perfect out there. And then I'm going to click once and then hold and drag it big like so. Well, this time this guy needs to go up like so, and then let me bring out a horizontal row, drag it all the way down until, well, it snaps to somewhere here, and then I would release, then commit the changes by clicking on the check mark on the options bar. Then I will choose my text tool again. This time I would highlight this area and then backspace once, so to get rid of the space out there. Then your beautiful, I'm going to highlight your beautiful, and then I will change its font. Well, notice at the options bar I still have them over here. Now I'm going to click once and then I'm going to type Edwardian. Once I begins to type, well, it realizes that this is what I want to do, so I'll press the enter key to commit that change out there, which is of course great. So then the very next thing I would have to do is to highlight my pictures. So notice when I highlight this, well, all the things I can see the actual color that I am using. So how do I get rid of that but still the selection should be ongoing? Well, that is what I'm going to do right here. So I'm going to highlight pictures. Well, I want pictures to be highlighted, but I want to see the colors inside of the pictures, not the inverted ones. So I will press Ctrl and then the H key on the keyboard to temporarily hide that one, even though it is active, but you can't see it, but you and I know that that one is active. So I will change its font size over here 26.5. then I end up getting this, which is of course great for me. I'm going to commit the changes by clicking on the check mark out there and then return to my move tool. Then, well, let's switch back to our final project. When we switch back to the project, you notice that I have some something like Win ICT Center over here and then some strokes going on out there. Well, I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'm going to switch back to my document in progress by pressing the Control and then the Tab key on the keyboard. Then I'm gonna just type something. Well, but this time around, instead of typing with a text tool, I'm gonna make a duplicate. So I'll click on this little text over here, which happens to be the number, and I'll hold my Alt key. Notice when I hold the Alt key down, my cursor changes to 2. That is, it gives me a duplicate. Well, I'm gonna click, hold and drag. But notice I want it to go in line with the original text. So I'll hold Shift key to keep it in line and then drag, then release. Then I'm going to let go of the keys on the keyboard. Then I will choose my text tool and then highlight everything out here. I'm going to change everything to caps lock and I'll type Win ICT Center like so, and then I'm going to commit the changes, then return to my move tool, come down to this area, and then, well, basically I am just heading to where I want to go. Next, I would have to draw a stroke out there, but then in my case I will still use this tool, this rectangular marquee tool. But well, what happens to the single row marquee tool? Well, I'm going to choose this one and then just click once. That is going to give me a selection of one pixel at a time. So with my foreground color selected, I'm going to press Alt backspace. But before I do that, I need to make sure it is on a separate layer. So I'll come down over here to the little page icon located at the lower right side of the screen, click on it like so, and then you create a new layer called layer 1. I'm going to Alt backspace. That way I then fill it with a color. But then is it actually showing? Well, let me zoom way in. When I zoom way in, you notice that what we indeed applied it, but then it's not showing well. But I'm going to press the Ctrl D on the keyboard to deselect the selection. And then, well, this is where I'm going to apply just a bit of transformation. So I'll choose my move tool and then come all the way down here. Then I'm going to position my mouse pointer over here like so, and then I will drag this one. Notice I'm just trying to modify the thickness of the line to something like the height of 0.17, which is of course great. And then here I'm going to click, hold and drag. That is, position your mouse pointer at the midpoint until you get two-headed cursor going left from right, not the one slanting like this or even the one bending. In fact, when you end up doing something like this, well, please, you are rotating the work, that which is not what we want. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z on the keyboard to undo that, and then I'm going to press the enter key on the keyboard to accept that. Then next, when I zoom in by pressing the Ctrl++ on the keyboard or holding the Alt key and then using my mouse scroll, well, notice I then end up creating this out here. I'm going to press the down arrow key on the keyboard a couple of times to nudge this down a bit. Then I would hold my Alt key, click, hold and drag with the Shift key down, and then drag it down here. That way I create a duplicate of that line. The very last thing I might want to do is to bring in art. So I would click on the text tool, come down here, click on it, and then press and hold my Shift key and then press the 2 key. That way I bring out the art. Well, the size is set to 12. I'm going to highlight it and then change the size to something like 9 and then accept the change. Click on this and then let it go. Well, I'm going to bring it all the way to the middle like so. Yes. And then, well, this time I'm going to make these guys 2. The reason being that I don't want anything to be showing, the line to be showing inside of the art. So I will click on this one and then click, hold and drag until I get to this area like so. When I zoom in, you notice. So I'm going to still bring it out a bit, that is inside a bit. Then I'll press the enter key on the keyboard. I'll press the enter key on the keyboard to commit that change. Then I'm going to zoom out. Then I would hold the Alt key again, click, hold and drag with the Shift key down, then come all the way down here. And then, well, this time around, so I'm going to drag this one to this side a bit to commit that change, and then, well, click on it and then I'm good to go. Then next, well, when you look at the final project over here, you notice that this color is actually gold. So I'll switch back and then until I get that gold color. So how do I get that gold color? Well, I will click on this, bring out my character panel. If you can't get it, go to the window menu and then come down to character and then click on the color swatch, that is the color over there, and then your color picker dialog will come. Just click on this logo over here, of which you can get to by entering the code of CE9B36 and then click on the OK button to accept that out there. Then the very final thing we will do is to back this color down a bit. We can get to that by using our opacity. So click on it to make sure it is active. In any case it's not active, then it means your auto select over here at the upper left side of the screen, that is on the options bar, is not active. So click inside this box and make sure it is active. Then click on this orange and then back the opacity down to 20% and press the enter key. That way you then end up getting this project done. So, well, at the end of the day, we end up getting this project. So if you can see this as compared to the first one, well, we are getting something similar to that one out there. Well, thanks to the power of Photoshop. But then, well, over here when you look inside of the contact, well, we need to bring some dash out there like so. So well, I am gonna go ahead, click inside here, and then bring dash, click here, bring dash, just something like this, dash 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 dash, and then dash like so, to make it readable. Well, that is great. I'm going to accept the changes. Well, this one I'm not going to match it too much, so what I will do is I'm going to use the right arrow key to back it a bit, that is to send it to the right side a bit. And then that brings us to the end of this class with the help of the rectangular marquee tool and then the single row marquee tool working together here inside Photoshop. Thanks so much for watching.